So this right here is the Polygon Siskiu T7. You guys have probably seen this on my channel, and it is a fully capable trail machine. Now, I've been riding this particular bike for almost a year now, and I've got to say, this is one of my favorite budget-friendly full suspension bikes. But over here is the Polygon Siskiu T8. It's essentially the big brother to the T7. And today I want to go over all the specs and details on these two particular bikes and let you guys decide which one is right for you. Let's go ahead and let's dive into all the details on these two awesome trail machines. Now, looking at both the Siskiu T7 and the T8, there are some similarities that we should probably go over first. And first and foremost is the frame design. These two bikes, even though they're priced nearly $500 apart, they run the exact same frame, they just have different paint schemes on them. So if you want a purple or a charcoal color bike, you could go with the Siskiu T8. But if you wanted this awesome blue-green color or possibly a gray or black color, you might want to check out the Siskiu T7. Now on the Siskiu T-line, you do get a one-piece unibody pivot bridge design. So Polygon uses this particular suspension setup in the T-Series to keep it super simple, but also super efficient. They say that this will actually give you 10% less anti-squat, and that 10% anti-squat should give you a better pedaling efficiency whenever you're climbing up those hills or going on those long flats. Now the T-Series also features boost spacing and rear through axles. So the Siskiu T-line has a really good head tube angle at 65 degrees. This is going to keep it super efficient for climbing, but then also allow you to bomb down some of those really steep hills. And not only that, this does have a tapered head tube in here, so you can run more modern forks. So if you decide down the road that you want to swap out your fork for a different one, you're going to easily be able to find a fork that's compatible with these frames. And speaking of efficiency, these do have a 77-degree seat tube angle. It's going to put you in the right position for comfortable climbs and comfortable descents. And last but not least, in the frames, you are going to get internal routing. So these bikes look really clean by hiding all the cabling inside the frame. So now let's go ahead and break down the differences between these two bikes and why the T8 runs typically about $500 more than the T7. That way you can decide which one is perfect for you. So the first thing that we're going to want to look at is the suspension on the T7. So this particular T7 does have the Fox Float DPS in it. This typically would come with a RockShox Deluxe Select Plus, but I did have an issue with the rear triangle, and just to play it safe, they did send me a new rear shock, and they happened to send me the Fox Float DPS. This is the same one that comes on the Siskiu T8. However, I haven't seen a huge difference in the ride feel between the RockShox Deluxe Select Plus and the Fox Float DPS. Me personally, I prefer the RockShox. I find it to be just a little bit more reliable, but overall ride quality, I can't tell any difference between the two shocks. You do get things like lockout and rebound adjustment on both of the shocks. So either way you go, you are going to get a really good shock. Now up front on the T7, you will get a RockShox Recon Silver RL front fork. This is a 140 millimeter travel fork that does have an air input, and it also has rebound and compression dampening built into it. So you can adjust this fork and get it dialed in for your exact riding style. Now, the only downfall that I have found with the RockShox Recon is that it is a little bit heavier. But if there is one thing that's really good about this fork, is it is really durable. This is a fork that's made for all kinds of riders out there. So you don't have to worry about having issues whenever you pick up a T7 with a RockShox Recon fork on it. Now over to the T7 side of it, you do get that Fox Float DPS rear shock. These are going to be 135 millimeters of travel. And like I said, I do prefer the Deluxe Select Plus that comes on the T7, but overall ride quality is going to be about the exact same. The big difference in the T8, in my opinion, is the front fork. This comes with a Fox suspension. This is the 34 Rhythm, and I've got to say this 140 millimeter travel fork is buttery smooth. I really do feel like this particular Fox fork on the T8 really does make a huge difference in the ride quality. And for me, it's probably the #1 reason to upgrade to a T8. Having that lighter front end that's a little bit more supple and a little bit more forgiving whenever you hit some of the rough stuff really does make a big difference. Now, when it comes to drivetrain, both the T7 and the T8 come with a Shimano 1x12 drivetrain. The difference is the T7 has a Dior setup and this has the SLX setup. You're gonna get an SLX front shifter and you're gonna get an SLX rear derailleur. The cranksets appear to be the exact same across the board. We're gonna be using the exact same chains, and we're also gonna be using the same Sunrace rear cassette. So overall, what you're really paying for is a step up to the SLX line in the shifter and the rear derailleur. And if you can swing that extra $500 that the T8 typically sells for, I wouldn't say that this is a major selling point, but it is just one of those other little upgrades that you can check off as a benefit of spending a little bit more money. So now let's compare the brakes. These are the Tektro 4+2 Orion P brakes, and these are on the Polygon T7. And on the T8, you are gonna get Shimano 4-piston MT401 brakes. They're gonna be 4 pistons, both front and back. The big difference between these brakes and the T8 are the Tektro 4+2, you only get a 4-piston in the front and you get a 2-piston brake in the back. So the upgrade to the Shimano MT401s with 4 pistons both front and back is a good quality upgrade. So if you're wanting the maximum braking power that you can get, definitely the Polygon T8 is the way to go. Having 4 pistons both front and back, whenever the brakes start to heat up, it can make a difference. Now on the T8 and the T7, you will get the exact same bar and stem setup. It's about a 35mm stem along with 780mm Entity Expert bars. These are pretty nice bars. I did put some upturn fun bars on the T7, and so far I'm really happy with that. Having a little bit higher rise since the stack height is a little bit lower on the Siskiu line really does add a little bit more comfort to the bike, but that is totally a personal preference. Now both the T7 and the T8 do have single lock-on Entity grips. Now when it comes to a dropper post, this is going to have a Trans-X dropper post. If you have the small or the medium frame, you're going to get a 150mm dropper. But if you have a large or an extra large like this one, it's gonna have 170mm. And I personally find if the remote is set up properly on these Trans-X droppers, they work really, really well. So there's the differences between the Polygon Siskiu T7 and the T8. These bikes are definitely shred machines, regardless of which one you go with. If you don't wanna spend quite as much, you're not gonna be disappointed by going with the T7. This one has been on sale for the past couple of months for right around $1,600, but the T8 in purple has been on a massive sale right around $1,800. This bike typically sells for right around $2,000. Now they are coming out with a green T8 and you can go ahead and pre-order those as of right now. These two bikes are phenomenal bikes. I really don't know that there's any manufacturer out there right now that is beating them in price. Polygon has been really aggressive at keeping their prices low, especially on the Siskiu T series, in a time period where bike prices have just been skyrocketing. Most of the bike industry is starting to see that people aren't wanting to spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on a bike. Most people are wanting to spend roughly around $1,000 to $2,000 to get a quality bike. And I really feel that the Siskiu T-line is an all-around heavy hitter. Me personally, if I were to have one bike, the 140, 135 travel that you find on both the T8 and the T7 is really, really good to have. You can run these on an XC trail, but you can also take it out and run it in some gnarly downhill sections. So with an overall price of right around $1,600 to $2,000, I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these bikes. It's totally up to you on what you can afford and what type of features you want. And also maybe just the color of the bike is a big decision factor for you. All these parts can be completely upgraded and changed out. That is the nice thing about the Siskiu T platform. They built a frame that is completely upgradable and nearly future-proof. All right, guys, put it in the comments below. Which one do you prefer, the T7 or the T8? What factors in both these bikes really stood out that made you pick either model? If you want to pick up one of these bikes or check out some more information about them, use my links down below. I would really appreciate it. Those are affiliated links, and that lets Bikesonline know that you came from my video. And if you do purchase one, it does help out this channel at no additional cost to you. But as always, we'll see you guys in the next one.